You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 82 of Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and on today's episode, we are talking all things organizations and how that plays into the Star Citizen universe. You're probably very familiar with how MMOs operate on guilds, companies, whatever they call them. Well, in Soul Provision or in Star Citizen, we have what's called organizations, and mine that we've created is called Soul Provision. And if you probably heard in the background, somebody dropped something like a total idiot they are.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't Groza. Welcome the officers of Soul Provision. So we got Groza, we've got Marauder, and Mustang. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Doing well.
Good.
Doing all right.
Making it? Groza, I don't think we care how you feel, but...
Well, I am holding a pen, but I did not... this is not what fell and made that noise. It was not me, I promise.
Perfect. I guarantee it was probably Groza, but... all right, so this is going to be a different feeling episode. We're actually recording this on Sunday night. This is usually when we have our organization team sync, but with a couple of things happening at the end of this week, I'm going to be out of town. I thought it'd be great to get these three individuals in front of you to talk about what we love about organization play, what we are questioning about the future of organization play, and really just introduce you to what it feels like to be in a group of 150 plus members who meet every Thursday night, and what that dynamic can feel like in Star Citizen. So let's just introduce ourselves. I think that'd be a good start. And unfortunately, we're going to start with Groza. If you want to introduce yourself, talk to us a little bit about who you are, what you do in the organization at Soul Provision, and we'll go to Marauder and then Mustang.
Hello. I'm the person that plays the entity of Groza in the game and on Twitter mostly. I'm the combat officer. I tried to do a lateral move to fun officer, but there wasn't a position called fun officer. I just like I like flying around. I like buzzing people really close while they're trying to do important steps of their missions, like flying really close to them and buzzing them. I like encouraging a little bit of debauchery. I have a lot of fun just hanging out in the verse and playing the game. To be honest, I every now and then I'll make cute little videos, and I love taking screenshots as well.
Yeah. Well, Groza is definitely a beloved member of our org. We love poking fun at him, and during org nights, you are a character. You are somebody that we love, who brings a lot of joy and excitement to what we do. Sometimes on nights that don't work out well, you make it very entertaining. So thanks for being aboard, Groza.
Thanks.
Marauder, who the heck are you?
Hey, I'm Marauder. I am the logistics officer with Soul Provision. I've been a backer of Star Citizen since late 2015. I think I joined right before 3.0 dropped, so way back when we still had the hangar module. I'm more of a cargo guy when it comes to Star Citizen. I'm awful, absolutely awful at combat, so usually I'm hanging back while everybody else is killing people. I'll get a shot in here or there and get an assist, but I am not the guy. I'm not the guy to provide escort. So that's me. I've been with Soul Provision for I think coming up on a year now. So
one of the OGs.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. And you joined Star Citizen when? How long have you been a backer?
Late 2015, like very end of December 2015.
Goodness. Is that longer than you, Groza, and Mustang? Is here a dinosaur on the group?
Oh, I only just started in February 2023, right before 3.18. Most of my beginning experience was experiencing 3.18.
Oh no. And you still stuck around.
And
I
you're
was
still
hooked.
here.
I was hooked.
Yeah, well, good. You survived 318. Well, awesome, Marauder. I don't think I knew that about you. I didn't think you were in for 8 years or whatever that is. Math is hard.
Yeah, it's
9 years.
It's been a minute. I played a little bit early on. There wasn't much to do. There was Crusader, but there was nowhere to land on Crusader. There was no Orson. So it was Crusader, Port Olisar.
Wow.
I think there was a Comare. There was a couple of things to do. Not a whole lot, but I remember. Yeah, it was like when I first started and heard about Star Citizen. It was like every day you get in. All right, what's new? And then finally I learned. All right, well this is going nowhere fast. So I need to temper expectations. And 8 years later, we're still moving at about that same speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, love having you as an officer. You bring a lot of that expertise and organization to the organization. So thanks for what you do. And obviously logistics and supply, that is sole provision. So it all starts with you. We'll get into some of the loops that you kind of lead, and like the sole provision loop and what that exactly entails and why it's so enticing. So I think that's going to be some amazing content we'll touch in the next couple of minutes. But Mustang, let's go over to you, sir. Who are you? What do you do for the org? Talk to us a little about your Star Citizen background.
I'm Mustang 6. I do my best to be Groza's wingman, or wing lady, as it were, in the character world of Star Citizen. It's a whole lot of fun. And somehow some unintended fun relationship started there, but that's all for in-game. But just like, I think like you, Sulyce, like Groza, started 318, and I loved it right away. I loved the complexity of running into things you didn't see. For me, that's the perfect gameplay loop of being in a spaceship. I go back to Apollo 13 all the time, and so like this is what real humans in real space could be like. You don't know why you blow up, you just blow up. So that part it felt real.
What part of Apollo 13 had invisible asteroids?
Right, true. But shit's always breaking, right?
Yes.
So, and this is what you've got to work with. And I kind of like that part of the experience of being a backer for Star Citizen. Is kind of like being I'd equate it to a 6-year-old watching the space program and the race to the moon at the same time, right? This is something that's huge, involves so many people, and it's sort of an existential project experience that I think is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
On top of that, I'm an artist. I love, I found Star Citizen by Googling who makes the best spaceships or who is the best spaceship designer. And I kept coming across these names. Every time I looked up Star Citizen, I came across some other salty content creators. So I stayed away for about a year. But then I saw a charity event where a bunch of people were playing, and they landed one spaceship that they were all inside of an 890 jump. And I thought, oh my gosh, I got to get my brothers and my family and everybody I know onto this, because we would have so much fun. And so here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, while we're on your Mustang, I'm actually going to share my screen for those of you on YouTube and on Spotify. So first off, I want to thank you sincerely, wholeheartedly. The work that you have put into Sole Provision as like a marketing and PR expert, quite literally, it is. I appreciate that so much. I love doing this on my previous endeavors when I was in Elder Scrolls Online and New World, but I knew it wasn't something that it wasn't the forefront of my priorities. I loved branding, I loved logos, but when I found you, it was a godsend, quite honestly. But as you're seeing on my screen, the dude went out and freaking created a branding guide. So from our logos to how we talk about ourselves, to color schemes and texts that we use for headers and for the body, a little bit of our background as an organization. So I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about for this, like specifically, but just the level of professionalism that you have brought, like it humbles me because I do this like subconsciously. I don't create a PDF for it. This is what you have done, but subconsciously I'm like, yeah, let's stay with these fonts, and like I have it saved in Photoshop and on like Lightroom, but you have gone over and above with what you've created. So is there anything you wanted to talk about from this branding guide before we move on to the rest of the show?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd say thank you for letting me have the opportunity to do the design for the logo. For this, it's so much fun, and this is this is kind of my dream job. I've got a day job in the corporate world, and I love what I do. But I went to art school, always wanted to get back to art, and really want to get into the world of science fiction, concept art, and design. And I straddle that space. Behind me, you can see some paintings that I'm working on, but that's what I want to spend my whole day doing.
Yeah.
But like going back to like if you scroll up up a couple of pages to the design piece right there with the box, I had a whole lot of fun. You and I talked about, and I was range finding with you about what could the logo look like. And I sent you that first image where I pretended to do some duct tape images. Like I was thinking, what if we had a way to put our logo on something in game? And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that was my original concept for this, was how could we, what would it look like if we branded ourselves in this? And so yeah, I looked at the crate, and we talked about how that's what we wanted. And then I actually went in game, did some screenshots, had a whole lot of fun. I took the org armor that we use, and that's the colors. So that next slide up is that all of those colors actually come from that. And subsequently, that's where the provisions little comic strip that I've been doing lately came from. Was I invented this whole little conversation about something that Rosa kept calling me a Chad for something. And so it was this like little hazing thing where, okay, new person enters the org, and two other people take him out in the spaceship, and they get him outside to go do something, and then they take off and they're laughing. And that's the whole fun of it. But really what I was doing was I was taking screenshots of that armor in different lighting scenarios. So I went to Hurston, I went to an asteroid belt, I went out to Grim Hex, and I was trying to catch the light of Sol on that armor, and that's where our colors come from, and that color scheme for that brand design.
Love
so
that.
Whole lot of fun just incorporating what the org is, what you bring to the table, what the other officers bring to the table, and all the fun of it. And that's really made me hanging out with you guys a whole lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, for the three of you, thank you for everything that you do. I know it sounds like we're wrapping up the podcast, but thank you for everything that you do. It makes my job very easy. Where it comes to content creation, comes to creating the podcast, I know that I have three people I can rely on heavily for actually running the organization. So thank you for that. What I don't want this episode to become, and I know we won't do it, it's not all about Supervision. Like these three represent, the four of us represent Supervision. But I want to talk briefly about who we are, what we do. But it's the point is to transition into what org play is in general. We have some great insights and some great conversations coming up about that. But Supervision, we have always set out to be a logistics, a supply organization. So we might dabble in all the other game loops. So as you think about going from Stanton to Pyro with a cargo load, you might need an escort. You might need like Rosa to run combat operations to clear the field. You might need an exploration team to get eyes on the objective. Reconnaissance is surveillance, long range surveillance. You might need all of the game loops in order to make this run. And so I think that's the exciting piece about being a logistics company, is you might have that as the forefront. Marauder's going to be very busy, but Marauder's not going to be successful if no one else is in support, if we don't have medical teams, if we don't have everybody else. And so That's our charter. Our charter is to be the number one logistics company out of Stanton, Pyro, all the future systems. And in doing so, building with our org ships, our capital ships, and everything else. We're going to get into all of that and what that looks like. But it's not just about sole provision. I think it's very important for everybody to at least consider becoming part of an org. The community, the camaraderie, the fellowship that comes with being in a large organization, I think it's invaluable. And so what I would like to do is kind of pivot maybe, and Marauder, we'll start with you. But at what point did you go from a solo player kind of dabbling in the delivery missions and the bounty hunting missions, maybe then transitioning to a small group, 2 or 3 individuals, to deciding, hey, I kind of want to become part of a 150 member organization? Talk to me about your journey and what that looks like becoming a member of Sole Provision. So Marauder, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, it was a short jump. It was solo to Sole Provision.
Nice.
I mean, I've never done MMOs. I've never done an MMO before Star Citizen. I think the only multiplayer I ever did, I did Call of Duty and Battlefield with, some college buddies of mine, years ago. But once I found Sole Provision, Star Citizen, I was like, all right, well, there's plenty to do here as a solo player, and that's the only thing that I wanted to do. I never had any desire to, get online with other people, play at the same time, and then, as a family man, that's a little bit difficult to do anyway, right?
Preach.
But yeah, but not to plug the podcast or the org or anything, but it started with, I found the podcast, right? I found Beyond the Verse. I started listening to that, and you make it a point to to talk about Sole Provision and the community about it. Your vision for that on almost every episode, right? So I think that's where it kind of started, and so I said, well, you know what? Let me check it out, right? And so I joined the Discord, and and then I think at that point you were close to 100. Maybe 70, 80 at that point. And then just started having conversation with people in the org, and then, you decided to have an org night, and I think I was there. I think I joined for the first org night. I think we did salvaging and a reclaimer, and I was absolutely hooked, right? I mean, that's the first time that I'd ever done any sort of MMO event with anybody else, and I was 100% hooked.
That's so
cool. I think that, maybe 1 out of 10 of our org nights are ever successful with what it is we're trying to do. But it doesn't matter, right? If we could get Star Citizen to hell for the entire 2 hours, but we still have an absolute blast every single week.
Yeah. I don't know how many times we've taken an actual live PU org night and just said, F it, let's go over to the arena commander and we'll figure something to do in arena commander. But yeah, regardless, I mean, we could probably not touch the game, and just the 20 of us in Discord just sitting around talking, jaw jacking, drinking yourself a freaking bourbon.
That's exactly what we did with when 324 dropped, right?
The hangars?
The entire org night in your hangar, yeah.
Yeah.
How many ships can we fly into this hangar? And then it just turned into a whole social hour.
Pure chaos. Groza, what was the tipping point for you?
Well, there's a way to find out how long you've been a member of a Discord, and you guys know how bad I am at operating Discord, so I was just looking for it, but I couldn't find it.
Nice.
But the answer to your question is that so I started in February of 2023 because Dewey Goo said, hey, there's this game. And despite the fact that there have been many games that I've purchased because of my friend Dewey Goo, I decided to just try it. So I immediately had a little small group of people to play with. They were very patient with me as I sort of realized that inertia existed and that you couldn't just fly your Aurora full speed towards your friend markers and then kind of zone out, because eventually you would smash into their fully crewed hammerhead and blow it up. And there were a few different oh god, no, and then everybody died and it was my fault. So that was good. I immediately had a small group of people to play with, and but I also found myself just I loved running spice, as they say, around Crusader. There would be many days where I would just totally just throw on some music and just go. I had a little circuit that you would run and then sell them, and that was a lovely way to spend my time. And then there was just I just saw some crazy stuff on YouTube, both like from the community social side of things, which was crazy, which intrigued me because I love crazy. And then I also just saw like that one Jumptown video that everyone's seen, right? That one that has like 1 million views. Yeah. And I was just like so hooked. And so that kind of the kind of the crazy weird little social dynamic of the game, and like I just remember when I first started seeing some of the stuff, it was, I'm not going to say who and what it was because, it's just old drama, but like these people were just going at each other in sort of almost in character within the orgs and stuff. And there were people hunting other people out of other orgs. And I just thought like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I just got really interested, and I just sort of started an X account for Groza, and I just sort of started interacting with people, and I generally adhere to some. I generally try to stay positive because I'm not involving myself in this hobby to like stoke negative emotions. I live a very mindful life, and I try to adhere to that. My job involves a lot of conflict, so when I'm not doing that, I'm really more interested in relaxing, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, just I joined the org. I think what the thing that the org really gives you is it creates an activity that you can do, and it doesn't even really matter what you do, because there are so many times where when we're doing larger group stuff, like I just want to be in a turret. I mean, other times I want to be the main character. Most of the time, that's what I like to do. But, yeah, I just love being like, Steel, I'll ride with you, man, and just roll with it, and whatever happens, happens. It's all right, It's
ride or
fine.
die, and
yeah,
it's majority of the time dying, but ride or die. Yeah. That's good. I checked your member history. I can do that as an org leader. But you've been a member for 10 months, so you've been part of this Discord for 10 months. Yeah.
So that must have been just the beginning of this year.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Today's 11/3.
It shows it.
January,
shows
February.
It in your profile. If you look on the profile, it says
it shows it in your friend. Gotcha. All right. So okay.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get to that conversation about the main character syndrome, but being in an org, it's been very fascinating to watch what that does to people who have that main character syndrome, or who just want to always be the pilot. I've seen people completely transform when it comes to being in an org. They just want to ride turrets. They want to be a cargo hauler. They just want to take an Atlas and jump out in space, knowing that they can't EVA. Still.
That was so funny.
Inside jokes. This show's gonna be full of inside jokes.
There's also something, I don't know, there's also something to be said about being able to fulfill a very specific role in a larger sort of task. Yeah. And not needing to worry about doing everything, and just being like, oh, my responsibility is to do this, and if I want to drive a little cruise up to Sulyce on a mountain, so I can do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's something to be said about just being able to contribute to something larger. I mean, I know it's a little bit goofy to talk like that about a video game and stuff, but that's nice.
No, this game provides that skill, I think. And just quickly before we get to Mustang, that's a really good story. And it might seem kind of like low level, but we were doing Jumptown. We'd already secured the objective. I was the first on site in my Eclipse doing long range and surveillance. So I was kind of up in the mountains, and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to bring water. I forgot to like heal myself, so I'm like dying. I'm on like 10, maybe 15% of hydration, and I make that announcement like, hey guys, I might need to take off soon. And lo and behold, I see this small little like small little like ground asset driving up the mountain and towards me. I'm like, hey guys, there's some idiot coming towards my eclipse. Should I smoke them? It's Groza. It's Groza bringing hydration to his officer, and it was one of those moments of like, man, you could have so many layers to an operation, like almost like in real life. You could have refit and refill operations, and like Groza kind of allowed that experience, and it was funny. I thought it was funny in the moment because I didn't know what the heck I was looking at, trying to like climb up the mountain in a gray cat. What was that?
It was an Ursa with its headlights on.
So stupid. Like we're trying to be like quiet, and he's over here with his headlights booming.
The best part about that is, so I just looked at my YouTube, and the video from that was in late December of 2023. So that means that I did that within a month of joining the org.
Nice. So good. Good. Mustang. What was the turning point for you? Again, solo play. Everybody starts out as solo. Promise you. Everybody starts out as solo. Solo to small team to org. What was your process like?
Well, I had, and similar to Marauder, this is video games, not something I do a lot outside of Star Citizen, and I play games with my siblings, and that's a whole lot of fun. It's first-person shooter stuff, but it's never anything like this. But I get the org, the play factor with people that are fun for you. But I'd never considered it with people I'd never met before. Somebody approached me in Star Citizen about being in an org, and it was a medical org, and it was interesting, but I wasn't a good fit for what they were doing and how they were doing it. And I think that sent me on a content spiral, if you will. I was interested in the idea of hanging out with other people or meeting up or being in this crazy sandbox of a universe and meeting up with somebody else that you knew. And that's when I saw you on Tree 0311's Admirals, I think, an armchair.
Yeah.
Or something. It was one of your early appearances. I hadn't even heard of Beyond First yet. But you guys were talking about some of the tactical operations and how it plays in real life. And, coming from the service, like I was totally identifying with everything you were bringing up and talking about. And I was like, okay, that's a whole new element that I hadn't even considered, is getting to get back into a community of people that get this kind of operation. And those things were fun.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I immediately pinned out a 30-person platoon to operate the Valkyrie, and it's been my dream mission. And Groza can attest to this, because all I ever want to do is drop ship operations with the Valkyrie, and let's get out there and make something happen. Yeah, there we are.
It's a Groza and Mustang, by the way.
Yeah. But and since then, Groza and I have been coming up with all these crazy adventures, and that for me, again, being in the sandbox, not so much logistics, but it was like, what will this game let us do? And so, will it fit? Was a big thing. What can I put in a ship, and then what can I fly out of a ship? And I think that first org night at Jumptown, I think it was Disowned and we loaded up the Herc, the M2.
Yeah.
And we rolled off a ballista and a Spartan while Groza was dropping bombs from his A1. And it was brilliant. We survived the atomic blast and then kept shooting around. I still have video from that, and it's so much fun. But that night was like a perfect night to really kick off a long-standing relationship of all of the things that we can do, and it's a great way to get away from work and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And have fun with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So a couple of responses to that. One, again, recording this on Sunday, November 3rd. By the time this airs, it'll be Friday, close to Veterans Day. So just quickly, thank you, Mustang, for the reminder. Happy Veterans Day to any veteran that's listening. There's a lot of us veterans here in Soul Provisions. So if that's a thing for you, by all means, join the org. What Mustang's referencing is an interview that I had with Tree 0311. But it was a phenomenal conversation of how you would approach a bunker and if Star Citizen would allow that type of gameplay. But that kind of ties into the second piece that Mustang was talking about. But there are so many layers to every single mission, even Jump Town. One of my favorite things as an org leader is I might be first on the site, I might be in my Eclipse running recon, but there's something fascinating about just sitting back and watching everything unfold, like the multiple ships, the H2s, the A2s, Groza moving, drinks up a mountain, but just being that eyes and ears, decentralized command, right? Being able to watch everything happen and realizing how everything just plays into each other is just an incredible experience when it happens or when it works. So
I bet looking down from the mountain and like seeing the C1 or the Cutlass leave and knowing that it's got a cargo bay pretty much full of mace probably feels pretty cool. It's almost the same as, like, I hate to diminish it like this, but it's almost like when you get your little Tropico island or your Sim City going really well, and it's like, ooh, look, everything's moving, everything's doing exactly what I orchestrate it to do. I can just take a drink.
That's right.
I feel attacked with that comment.
That's absolutely.
Well, to go back to that veteran play, I think, if you've ever been in a motor pool and you've heard those vehicles start up after you've done an inspection and everybody's about to roll out the gate, that mission's going to happen. That's the kind of excitement that you get. And you don't get that from like a Call of Duty or anything else where you drop in through a loading screen and all of that stuff. The amount of preparation and all of that stuff. I have in the shower thought ideas where I'm like, how much cargo should I put in these cargo containers, and can I drop them on a Jump Town to support the org, right? And I've done this, and I know it doesn't matter, but like I literally laid out, maybe we could, if we arranged it in classes of supply and like all of these nerdy logistic things, but you can sort that crap. You don't need, there's a menu, right? It's $29.54. You don't have to have that level of detail, but it's triggered a sort of a reminiscent, thing or brain pattern that I miss and I enjoy, and I get to relive and have, and it's been a whole lot of fun. Doing that.
Specifically in the shower. I want to highlight that comment. You think about that in the shower. Okay. I just want to make sure. Make sure the listeners,
Yeah, it's a clean show, right? So it's
But that's another awesome point about being in an org is the inside jokes that happen, because as you're talking about this preparation and getting things ready, we've got Steele in the background that's like, hey, should I bring my 890 jump? And we're like, what? Why? We're going to Jump Town and he's providing all these other assets, and we're like, whoa, that wasn't part of the op order, buddy. So good. Those happen, those moments in the community happen. So I'll end on that note. It's phenomenal kind of cultivating and facilitating a community like this, but just the pure personalities that come out and the different inside jokes and these layers of that happen in every single operation is just incredible. And I wish I could capture them all. I actually stopped recording the org nights. I know everybody knows this, because I wanted the authentic experience on Thursday nights. I don't want people having to mask and pretend and try to cover up who they actually are. So we're missing some gold nuggets. I hate to say that, but there are some amazing nights that we've had in the last couple of weeks and months. So let's talk about the current state, guys. we have these amazing ideas. So every Sunday night, the four of us get together. We have good idea fairies that come around, and we're like, hey, we should do this for Thursday night. And we have a Tuesday night or a Friday night flyby night where we do some random org night. And we have these great ideas, but then org night comes around, and everybody knows this, but you're either going to make it in the game, or the game's going to happen to you and you're going to have to kick out into Arena Commander, or even that's broken and you're having to react. You're having to create the most of it because, again, people move their schedules around. They try to force a Thursday night org night to happen, and we need to be considerate of that. So I don't know. How do we want to do this? Do we want to just talk like overall experiences with the current state of org play? And I guess Mustang, we'll stay with you since we started with Marauder last. But Mustang, overall, how would you describe your current state experiences of org play? The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever you want.
Well, I think so, and I'll caveat with I've had a very busy schedule over the past couple of months, but I with 324, obviously it's been what it's been, right? Yeah, I think in the Discord I made the joke I was asking the question whether or not they sure they deployed 324, not 318. It was it was, it's been one of those. Yeah, it became challenging again in ways that I hadn't seen it since it became stable in 319, 320. Yeah. But it's not lost on me what they're trying to do. And so, I'm just more appreciative of some of the things that we've received over all of these releases. But I did get stuck, and that picture you showed earlier was not actually the Mustang character. That was a different one that I'm working on for a Soul Provision comic strip episode. But I got stuck for several months. Like, I couldn't get out of that character because the character configurator wouldn't work. And what I've since figured out is that, hanging out on Spectrum or trying to find that out, it's like they closed the click window. So if you're out there and you're stuck, here's my PSA. It's on the far right side of the button. Like, the whole button doesn't work. Just click on the far right side of the button to get into that. But otherwise, I think missions have failed or things haven't quite worked. But I'm still having fun with friends. And the M2 I tried to use because it would be easy to do a cargo mission. And if anybody's out there and tried one of the Hercules, drop that front and that back door, and that thing starts rolling around like a hot tamale. You can't load that. It's fun. So
hot tamale. What's that got to do with anything?
That's good. So I want to stay with you, Mustang. I want to stay with you. You've created some assets for an upcoming org night we're calling Murder Mystery. And I'm going to share that. Let's talk about it. I think this is a good time to talk about it. Okay. But when the game fails or when the game loops are broken, you have to make it count. You have to make it what you will. And I think that's the main purpose of an org in 2024 is how are you going to make this the most enjoyable for the 10, 15, 20 people that come on an org night? And I will give the credit to these three individuals. I don't know whose idea was it. I don't know if it was my idea, if it was somebody, I don't know. I don't know whose idea was it, but a murder on the 890 jump, like that murder mystery feel. We wanted to do something completely outside of game loops on an 890 jump, away from everybody. And I want to share my screen and show y'all kind of what we were working through. So Mustang, do you kind of want to walk us through, again, this hasn't happened yet. We're going to record it. It's going to be a bonus episode. So I don't want to get into too many details, but Mustang, what are you willing to talk about with what I'm sharing on the screen right now?
Sure, and actually, we can share everything that's here because this is all safe. This is
my God.
This is none of the key characters.
Too much.
I want to share everything about it, but I can't.
But and a lot of credit to Groza for helping me come up with the side stories and some of the narrative. And this is something that I have a whole lot of fun with. It's not even close to a game loop, right? As a creative person, I enjoy the backstory of Star Citizen and sort of that lore environment, or what I think what Groza and I do a lot in game is lore adjacent, if you will. And so we play off of what Soul Provision is in game. We play off of some stuff we came up with on our own in game. And we're blending that with the lore of what's been written in Star Citizen. And we created this sort of, um, Hercule Poirot from the Agatha Christie kind of stories
Heck yeah.
of a true honest murder mystery, right? And this would be so much fun, I think, and I think it's going to be a great time. So we worked up a real life story, a little event, and people get to come, and we're going to give them characters and backstories to play with, and we're playing off of characters in game and the lore in game, but we're adding to, and Groza did a great job of making up some really fun events that we embellished. And I can't wait to see what our org members do when they come up with the rest of the characters. And like you said, Sulyce, being able to do this in game, outside of the game loop, this I think is a whole lot of fun. And so as soon as we feel it's at its uh, stable sort of spot to really pull it off, we want to get to the end of the mystery, and that's why we decided to put it from the October month into a different time.
I think that's the $1 million question is, okay, when? Because every time we feel confident about a Thursday, we're like, oh, I don't know. We have like 3 test universes on right now. Like, don't know,
we
friend.
did pick Thursday nights are our org nights, and that's also the night that Star Citizen likes to release all of their stuff. So
Classic.
TU is always like 7:00. Everybody's, oh no.
I'll own that. I will own that decision. So whoops. Groza, if you want to tack on to that, or if you want to talk to us about your perception of the current state of org play, and that's barriers, things that we have to constantly have to walk through and think through. What's your overall reaction to the current state of org play in Star Citizen?
Sure. I'm really looking forward to Pyro being introduced. I'm hoping that just the simple nature of it being such a dangerous place, and hoping that some of them, I'm hoping that I think there's a lot of stuff that's about to happen and 4.0 happens. I'm definitely like huffing the hopium on this, because the economy rebalance is a really big deal. The wipe that's going to happen is a really big deal. When I first started playing, I remember thinking that the in-game rewards for group play type things needed to be higher to incentivize the group play. Like ERTs being 25,000, like when you can go solo them, and like I just felt like ERTs need to be way harder, and they needed to be, but they also need to give a lot more money, because you want to, it should be hey, I need a few people to hop on and help me with this, not if I invite people, I'm going to lose money, right? Like, you don't really want to think of it like that. But, for those of us that have like game-minded brains that like, what's the most efficient way to do this? What's the highest whatever? You tend to just sort of automatically do that analysis. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to... And you can kind of already tell that some of the cargo stuff is paying out pretty nicely for the larger things that really would be a huge pain to do by yourself, I think. But I'm really looking forward to Pyro. I really think that the danger makes the success that much. It feels like, imagine making the jump back to Stanton with the full load of stuff and the 6 people that just spent like 3 hours and didn't get killed. No. Like, you don't really have that high without the inevitability of, it's going to get ruined someday by people who are just trying to blow things up just for fun, right? And but like, you can't. That negative experience is balanced out by the positive experience, in my view, of succeeding. So I'm really looking forward to Pyro, to be honest. Yeah. The current state of the game, it is what it is. I just, I'm not going to go try to accomplish missions in the live verse right now, because I know that the current state of the live verse is probably not going to set me up for success. So I'm not going to go do something that's going to make me mad.
Yeah.
It's just, so honestly, by the time people hear this, I think 2A is going to be out. And right now I dabbled in the 2A build in the PTU this weekend. Incredibly stable. Bounties were working fine. Merc missions were working fine. Things were not teleporting all over the place. So I suspect that all of any griping we do about the state of the game is going to be a little bit goofy, because I think that's about to come out. I think everybody's going to be pretty relieved about that. But you just have to have good expectations, and then you won't get mad.
It's a very peaceful approach. Yes.
I mean, well, seriously, I mean, what's the point of getting all mad?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if we can't make anything happen, sometimes Mustang and I will just go and, like, look at that. That little screenshot you showed earlier. We were in an A1. We blew some random stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
We take some screenshots. We talk. I mean, it's not really about the. It's not really. I'm sorry, that's not Mustang. You're right, Mustang. That's one of Groza's other ladies that Groza likes to hang out with.
That's a comic book strip ready through.
So yeah, I mean, the cargo missions, honestly, the big ones, it's a lot nicer to do with people. So I'm super happy that the game is incentivizing the group play with in-game mechanics, right? Yeah. Those service beacons that sort of were a thing for a while, and now I haven't seen one in ages. Like, those were good high rewards, because they were hard, and you had to actually bring friends, right? So yeah. I'm happy about that stuff, and I don't get too worked up about where the game's at.
Yeah. Well, before we go to Marauder to talk about the Soul Provision game loop, let me ask you this, Groza. So, as far as and you've been part of the Operation Order authoring, like whenever we talk about a Thursday night and we sit down and spend hours developing, the communication plan and the logistics trip and all of that, what would you say is the largest gap that Star Citizen has or needs to solve for in order for org play to be even more successful, or to be just to be successful, period? What would be the largest obstacle?
Well, the largest obstacle from a dev standpoint, I would probably say, is just I think they have to keep trying to make these large scale missions work. So the Blockade Runner was I actually had a blast doing Blockade Runner. There were some glitches where we couldn't get the number to go up or whatever, but I think having missions and or events that allow the group to accomplish separate things in separate areas while together advancing forward the mission. So like the Blockade Runner had there was sort of like an infinite spawn of bad guys at the station, so that if you had some people that maybe just wanted to join late, hop in a fighter and just blow stuff up, like that actually contributed. Keeping the station space clear was actually contributing. Maybe 2 or 3 people going out to those little beacons, blowing up the bad guy that had some of the green stuff on it, Zeta Prolinide. And then you also had people who were then loading up the cargo. So it's like designing missions in a way where you don't get bottlenecked by one thing necessarily, I think is probably the key. Yeah. Which, I mean, they are kind of doing, so good for them for that.
So I think Overdrive Initiative like the Xeno threats prelude was perfect. I think that was the 5 phases. I probably have that number wrong, but the 5 phases, like some of us could be on phase 1, another group of soul provision could be on phase 2, and I think it all kind of working together, right, to the point of having to clear out, what was it? Not Seraphim Station, but it was the Comare.
Correa.
Yeah, security post Correa. But yeah, I think that's a great indicator that CIG has noticed that they're actually acting on it, and that for me was an amazing time for our organization. And what was that, April, May, earlier this year, I think, prior to summer, if I'm not mistaken. But that was a lot of fun.
It was before and after Invictus launch week, because remember they extended the period of time.
That's right. No, that's
I have not seen I don't think anything made our org more active outside of scheduled events than that. And there was just that was actually really great for org play, because that was, people constantly were like, hey, can anybody help me with phase 3? And then people were always willing to help. So a lot of people were playing in little small groups. I mean, honestly, they don't have to give us that much. If they just dangled a little armor set in front of us, we would all do it. Like just like a little paint. Oh, I'll do anything.
Such low-hanging fruit.
No, I mean, but seriously though, but we all love.
That's right.
Having that little like, oh, I got this armor set in my hangar now because I did this thing, and you guys are never going to get that now. Haha.
And a ship. If I could just add though to your original question, Sulyce, I think in-game comms, to really get org play going and really nail that immersion, we need in-game comms to be working, whether it's in-ship or the vicinity chat or some of those other technical limitations that have been there. The Discord thing is, I mean, that's fun and that's a nice side thing, but having something more back to in-game, even like a mobile app for in-game, would really, really be helpful to be able to chat and say, get things up to speed or prep and do those other things related to what I think org play really could be on par with the rest of the vision of what this project is.
Yeah. I can't agree with you more. I'm walking around with friends during Halloween, so kids are going out, acting amok, knocking on doors they shouldn't knock on, craziness. But the friends that I was walking with, he's also a gamer, and we were talking about Phasmophobia. Have y'all ever played Phasmophobia? Okay, first off, you need to. It's incredible. But it's this like ghost hunting game, but it's all built on in-game proximity chat. So you're on these like walkie-talkies, and you have to be like I can't talk to you if you're on the other side of the house. And ghosts are coming, things are creaking. It's a scary, frightening game, but it's a game that uses that proximity chat artistically, I don't know, whatever, masterfully. Let's go with that. But the proximity chat's incredible. So I think there's some of that, Mustang, that you're talking about, where I would love for it to feel like it's integrated into the game. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. They talked a little bit about it in CitizenCon, which we can get into in the next couple minutes. But it's such a layered problem that I don't know what their solution is going to be, but it needs to be solutioned. For this to be a simulation, for it to be what they call it, you're going to have comms that work. And right now they don't, and that's fine. We can use Discord, but that's such a killer to immersion, to your point. That doesn't feel like you're in the spaceship. It doesn't feel like you're in the game talking with Groza Marauder Mustang.
Yeah, also, and Discord, like, come on, develop some better, like, perms and, like, God voice stuff. Come on, what the heck? Although, I will say, so it's like, yeah, it probably is complicated, but it totally makes sense in verse, right? Like, even, hate to do this, but even in the Squadron snippet that they played, like, when the Admiral is, like, making his announcement to everyone. Yeah. Like, that needs, like, it would be really cool if, you were kind of broken up by little fire teams, and then, like, but then like the op leader could have like a little God voice that went out to everybody, which would make sense. So, you're flying your little Gladius, you got a little, I'm sure there's the little comm thing pops up, and then you talk through it. That would be so cool.
Absolutely. Yep,
I
100%.
may be remembering, maybe aging myself or remembering wrong or whatever, but I think back to my OG DayZ days, right? Built on the Arma platform, and I feel like Arma had that down pretty well, right? You
I
had
agree.
global chat, you had global voice, you could do down to the the squad level or proximity. So it feels. I mean, I'm not a dev, but it feels like it shouldn't be that hard to get it in a game.
Yeah. Well, besides you being super old, let's stay with you and let's learn. Let's learn. So when the game doesn't work or when game loops don't work, Marauder, I think it'd be great for us to lean into the sole provision game loop. We have developed just high level context. We developed our own kind of entire game loop that involves all different facets of the game, and masterminds are here to my left that have all the details here. But it's been an amazing loop to fall back on, to say, hey, we're gonna have a sole provision night, we're gonna be doing a little bit of bounty hunting, a little bit of salvaging, a little bit of cargo running, all within like the same loop. It's incredible. So there's your teaser. Marauder, walk us through what we have developed. And again, this is not so much a plug for Sole Provision, but what is capable of an organization in Star Citizen. So Marauder, go for it.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, it's an incredibly organic game loop, right, that we've developed. I think that it probably rides on, I don't know, arguably 3 of the most stable game loops that there are, right?
Yep.
So to speak. You've got bounty hunting, right? We'll have someone that'll start off. You'll have 3 or 4 guys that'll be out in front, so to speak, in combat ships, and somebody that can pull in ERTs or VHRTs, and they'll pull the missions in, they'll share them with everybody so that everybody knows where they're supposed to go. We're broken up into 3 teams. We got we have our hunter team, our gatherer team, and our salvaging team, right? So our hunter team is going out and they're taking care of the ERTs, VHRTs, and then you've got a gatherer team that's coming behind them with most of the time with a C2. And they'll have 3 or 4 guys on board who are going to be down below in the cargo deck. We'll open up the front and the back doors, and they'll pull the ESC containers off of whatever ship may have just been killed from the bounty. And then once that cargo is offloaded, you'll have a salvaging team that's bringing up the rear, and usually in a reclaimer. And then they're salvaging what's left over from all the bounty ships. And when it works right, you can clear a good 10, 15, 20 million UEC over the course of our 2-hour org night. So it's an absolute blast.
Yeah. No, I think it's brilliant. I think, remind me if I'm wrong, but we started with like the Vaughn missions, right? Like we let the Vaughn missions kind of drive the bounty hunting piece. So. Yeah. We'd go there. We would take care of some of the higher level Vaughn missions. But just, yeah.
I think the Vaughn missions may have been our revision of the original Soul. Soul Reaper, I think is what we call it.
Soul Reaper. I like that.
But I think the Vaughn missions came out after the fact. Mustang, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were the mastermind behind all of this, right?
I won't take mastermind credit. Someone else in the org mentioned a sweep and clean kind of operation that was similar. And when we met on a Sunday night, I said, look, why don't we try this? Because it's outside of a game loop, but we know these things are working. We know we've got pilots that can shoot folks down. I think I've been on missions with probably Groza and Marauder before where we were doing ERTs, and I remember having to go back and get a different ship because the Caterpillar wasn't big enough to pick up our haul. But Groza was such a Chad, knew what to shoot down and how to shoot them down and not to blow them up, right? And then you get a bunch of gasping weeble eggs and what was it? The Huevos
Verdes.
So yeah.
This was all around the time that those just were like massively overspawning on the cargo ships, and then Ruckus was sort of our entry into the Vaughn missions.
That's right. Ruckus and Talon, and I think Dreamer ran a couple of on missions in a single ship, and they were cleaning up on their own. And that's where we started to think, and through some of their after action review guidance, we kind of really refined it into what Marauder made it. But I'd also want to give a shout out to Marauder for the other mission of picking up, what was it, recycled material and putting it on, was it C1 or C2?
Whole C.
Oh, the whole C.
Yeah,
Whole C.
that was a brilliant mission. And even though that broke, we lost the whole arm that night.
Literally broke. It literally broke.
But I was in a Gladius, and I just circled around and took a 360 perimeter at about 300 meters from the center of where that activity was. Just nothing happened, but just playing that other role, support role, was a blast. And then Groza showed up and started buzzing me and shooting me. But
That's accurate, actually. I took one of the coolest screenshots of my life that night of Marauder. I just put it in our little thing if you want to see it.
Oh, that's
it's probably, I know Marauder knows exactly what I'm talking about.
The visions of the visions of the NASA astronaut float.
Yeah. But
so this was, we had I think Mech had helped drive this, but we got a bunch of members of Soul Provision in the 3 weeks leading up to this that just went out and just started doing missions to collect our seed money, if you will. And I think we got somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 to 60 million AUEC. And basically what we did was we had a team of 3 or 4 C2s that would go down to, I think it was Picker's Point, and buy all the UEC they could with that 60 million, and then they would shuttle it up to orbit to a whole C that was waiting, and we basically tractored the 32 SCU containers off, and then as you see here, loaded it right onto the whole C, and then I think we got Star Citizen when we were trying to quantum to our core. But yeah, the hilarious part that I think Rose and Mustang were alluding to is we were loading one of the arms up with SCU containers, and I don't know what the hell happened, but all of a sudden the arm just snapped off the whole C. And we had, probably 16 or 17 32 SCU containers, which, worth 2 or 3 million AUEC just floating away, and we're all scrambling trying to get them all back. And it was, like I said, we blew $60 million or 60 million UEC that night. We didn't accomplish anything, but it was probably some of the most fun that I've ever had in Star Citizen.
I want to say Steele was involved in that arm break.
Of course he is.
He was there. He was there.
I do want to highlight what Marauder just said, though. It's not so much about when the game breaks. It's about the other 99.9% of the time. Like I think you go into Org Nights, and I'll speak for myself. I go into every Org Night expecting something to fail. Whether it's 3/4 of the way through or right at the end, we rarely have a 2-hour successful night. Rarely. Yeah. But that 99.9% is the most fun that I've had in gaming, and I've been gaming for 30 years. Like, I guarantee you, get yourself involved in an organization, maybe like Soul Provision, but that's going to be some of the most fun, the most... like the nights that we just go and low fly. Groza, you took us on an org night just low flying. What was it, on Daymar maybe? Right? I think it was Daymar. Yes. I've never had more fun flying.
Lady Daymar, as we call her.
Like that was like some of the most fun flying I've ever had. We knew the game was gonna break. We knew it was in a bad state.
I can't believe I didn't talk about low flying in my intro.
Yeah,
sorry.
Here's your chance. So Groza is our token low flyer in the org. But do you want to go real quick on low flying, what that means? Because we've had org nights. We have had the time to be able to learn how to low fly. And again, Steele freaking bringing a non-low flying ship to low fly in a classic way. But Groza, talk to us a little about low flying real quick.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal the microphone, but basically, I just some of the people that I started following on the YouTubes, I just started seeing this whole group of people doing what they called low flying, and you literally just fly really low to the surface. It definitely teaches you how to think about kind of the way that you fly in the verse and how the kind of flight model works a little bit. And I just sort of there are some people who every Friday they do what's called ground and pound, which is just it's just a group of people that have sort of developed. A lot of them are from Europe, and then you just can get together. You go find them, whoever's on, and join on them. And it's just it's very calming. It's very meditative. It's very kind of peaceful, except for when you blow up, which is frequently. Which we have to. CIG needs to figure out how they're going to deal with insurance and death of a spaceman, and still make low flying available in the verse. By the way, note to CIG.
You'll have to do low flying in your sim pod.
Yeah, sounds like skill issue there, Groza.
Just don't die.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of people. There's different factions. There's people who all usually fly at about 220 meters per second, and you put your speed limiter on so that you can kind of keep it really close and tight. There's other people who have very strong opinions about that, and they think you should like unlimited with speed limiter off is the best way to do it. Speed limiter on certainly lets you get kind of better group cinematics, better footage for videos and stuff. Certainly, speed limiter off is just cooler because it's riskier, But yeah, that's one of the solo loops, if you can even call it a loop. It's not even a really loop. There's no point. It's just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the point of me going over to you for that is once you think that you've done it all in Star Citizen, there's always something there that like you haven't done, or you haven't mastered, or you haven't really dabbled in. And so I've
never mind.
You've never mind still,
except for jail. What? except for in jail, I've never mind.
Wow, officer. Okay. We need a mining night then to get you out there. The Arastra's coming up. We got to get you ready for the Arastra. Okay. So let's transition to last weekend, or was it 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago at this point? I don't even know. CitizenCon happens, and I would argue the majority of CitizenCon wasn't necessarily the pyro and the next force systems or anything like that. It was actually more about org play and what that means for base building. Let's go through the list. So tools that were going to be used for communication and organization within the game, highlighting players in reds and light reds and greens and blues to kind of color coordinate, putting people on a kill list. I think that's all very sexy. And what we've talked about in Supervision, we actually had a channel for a hunter kill team for people that we wanted to go and pursue. But we had that. We had base building, what it means in 1.0. We got the whole space ship building and what that means for creating a bangle. And I just want to open the floor. We're going to start with you, Groza. I don't think we've started with you on a topic yet, but when you're looking at CitizenCon, both day 1 and day 2, what was it about org play that really interested you? Again, whether it's the tools, whether it's the future of 1.0 and beyond, what was it that drove your interest?
I'm not huge into the idea of base building. I'm more huge into the idea of like you building a casita on your land and then that being for me, basically. So I will love participating in it. I will love helping people with getting stuff to build their bases. I just don't have a huge itch for it myself. But what I found, what I've been wondering is like, how the heck are they gonna? How is this gonna work? Right? Like how are people gonna? If I log off because I get the Rona for like 4 days and I log back on, is my house going to be destroyed? Like, what's up with this, right? And so I thought that this whole idea, like the way that they made it make sense in game with the shield system, I can't remember the lore name, so sorry to the people that created that, but just that whole idea of that like private planetary shield technology that's going to be just sort of abandoned in Pyro. but you still have to get the tokens to make it work. I think that's going to be. I think that's a great way to encourage PvP, quite frankly, between the orgs. And I mean, like, I think that's going to be pretty huge. I think that'll be super fun. I'm still wrapping my head around the guilds and how those are going to relate to the orgs and all that jazz. But I'm looking forward to this idea of maybe I'm not the person that really cares too much about constructing something, although I do have a galaxy and I'm going to be purchasing the base building module. I think I like the idea of being able to contribute to a larger base building operation and maybe even leading some PvP oriented excursions in that regard. I thought that was a really cool way, the way that they did that whole limited amount of planetary shield token thingies. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I can see you running the security for our base building for sure. Mm-hmm. So when we have a planet side base and we have a space side base, I can see you running security for that for sure. What are your thoughts, Grezza specifically? What are your thoughts on like the use of the logo? And it might be more of a Mustang question, but since we're on you, like, do you see that actually coming to fruition? I have my doubts. I have my suspicions that the community, like, gamers are going to be gamers. They're not always going to have the most appropriate logo. I don't know. I saw that
This is hearkening back to the conversation about the ability to do custom tattoos and how horrible of an idea that would be for humanity. I don't know. I mean, I really prefer the paints and the aesthetics in game that feel very real and very like reasonably realistic. Sometimes when the paints get a little too Fortnite-y or cartoony for me, I tend to be a little bit like, not super interested in that. So is, I want it to fit and blend in with the rest of the verse. I don't want to fly by and see some really, really ridiculous looking, crazy color org paraphernalia plastered all over a ship, because it's like, oh, I feel like that wouldn't exist. But that's just an aesthetic thing. That's really, I hesitate to even make the comment about the paints, because like all the paints that have come out in the past year look cool and they're very well done. They're just not my aesthetic necessarily for some of the more flashy ones.
So what you're saying is when Soul Provision has a planet side base, you don't want us to choose purple haze as our color scheme across all of our infrastructure. The green slime dripping everywhere. No? You don't like that?
I think that whoever designed that paint did a great job.
Okay. Okay. You're being political at this point.
Diplomatic of you.
Mustang, I got to go to you, man, with the same question. Like with the logos, with your ability to create that, great. Like when I saw that in CitizenCon, the org leader in me was like, hell yeah. I messaged you, Mustang. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, we got to revisit our logo. We got to make it, where it looks good on the side of a Cutlass Black. I remember having that conversation with you. There's no way that happens. There's no way that comes to fruition, does it?
I think so.
Really?
I'm so excited because we were talking as that was coming out online, and I'm flipping through the sketchbook in front of me and it's not the one I was drawing in, but I immediately pencil to paper started working on new logo design for Soul Provision. So I've always thought about the ship. I've always thought about, putting my own name or putting a little symbol, something not phallic, not, something appropriate, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
to Grose's point, that's the first thing I know some people will do.
Yeah.
So I understand some kind of policing agent on it, but being able to put a cool tattoo kind of, or a skull or something, something that's cool on your Gladius that sets you apart, that makes you look cool when you're flying around and low flying, or you come into that dogfight. and so you kind of get recognized. What I really thought was special was they were talking about putting t-shirts out there,
Yeah.
right? And so that in-game kind of clothes, so you could rock maybe a patch or something on a jacket in-game that was there. And I still think that can get done. Maybe it has to get submitted, and before it gets put on, somebody's got eyes on that before they say okay, and then it gets into the system and that JPEG gets created. But I'm 100% behind the idea of
Oh yeah.
getting to make your mark inside of this universe. That just adds to some of that immersion that's there.
Sure. Was that what you pulled out of both days as like the most intriguing and the most exciting thing for org play, or was there something else that you would highlight?
So I have I'm real interested in the, for lack of a better term, the land run approach to how you're going to get to claim something. And I was born 100 years ago in Oklahoma. I'm very familiar with the history of Oklahoma. And for those who don't know, a portion of that land was given to people. All you had to do was show up and pay some money, and they shot a starter pistol off, and the land run was open, and there you go. And there were people who cheated, and they got across the line early, and those people were called Sooners. And so if you're in the SEC and you see the OU Sooners, don't look right now, but they're coming.
Are they?
But
Are they?
They're gonna.
Here we go.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You just wait. A&M didn't look so good last week.
No, we didn't. No, it was.
But
it was bad.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, right? How do you get to go and claim your stake in the ground on wherever, and because these worlds are going to open up in time. They're not opening all up at the same time. And what are you going to do? I would be fine if I just had an apartment somewhere, right, in the right spot.
Sure.
And I would appreciate a garage or a hangar that I didn't have to run and get on the train to get to, even if I could fly a Fury back and forth or something that could just get me, to a bigger thing. I understand getting to go to a space station to get off world, but I think some of those things still need to play out. So I'm not hanging too much on it, but the idea of like 24/7 kind of operations, if you can get on, then get on, and you've got a job, and there might be base support and crafting support and farming and subsistence, all of those other things that would go along with maintaining a base.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's a whole new form of logistics. And then attacking bases is going to be so much fun.
It will. Yeah. And another level of PvP, like that next echelon of PvP for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will always see this game as a sim. And so what you're saying like resonates with me, but like knowing that Mustang has your clue, right? Your containerized living unit in the military, but your clue, your housing unit, but knowing like that is yours. And like me as an officer, you might be gone for 2 weeks on work, but I can go into your clue and I can look at your building and I can see everything in it, your decorations, your posters hanging on the walls, like just that living and existing in a base. Like, I don't know. I don't need much more. I'm a super simple person to please at that point, but just give me a community like within a massive infrastructure, and I'm happy. Like with the point that Groza was making, but Paint's putting names to our shops, like that was also teased in the game as well, or in CitizenCon as well. But us, like the naming conventions, I'm super excited about all of that. Marauder, what stood out to you from the 2 days of CitizenCon for org play?
It was 100% base building.
Yeah.
I think that when I started, that wasn't in the long-term plans for, it hadn't been mentioned at that point, but I think that with where Star Citizen was going, where the vision was, I think it was not that hard to make that leap that was where they were going to be eventually, right? And so I think that today, right, we do our org nights on a regular basis, but there's no persistence, right, to what we do on a weekly basis. And so I think that's probably what I'm most excited about, is kind of echoing exactly what Mustang said, right, is that long term, that you're always going to be working towards the maintenance of sustaining the org, right, of building the base up, of we've got a farm to feed the people, or feed our people, right? We're funding our org, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I'm at, of that very, very long-term persistence of gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick. So pausing the recording, we're at an hour and 19 minutes. Let's get Groza up and running real quick.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
So I see my face on the VOD, on the VDO.ninja site.
Yeah, it pulled you in as a different link. So give me a second. So video.
Sorry.
Dude, you're fine. You're fine. Frame rate 60, height. So let's do. It's one of the main reasons why I don't do this live, because I can come in here and edit.
You just made me into a square.
There you go. I got you.
Phew.
Calm down, sir. Calm down.
You doing it live, I remember last year I left an event for work because I wanted to listen to the podcast live. And so I told people I'm leaving. I got something I got to listen to.
Nice.
All right. I'm back.
You're back on that screen. Let's get you back on. Oh, you're back on both. Okay. Cool story. All right. Actually, I might just leave that in because I don't know. I don't care. I think it'll be fun to have it in an episode. But so we talked about previous experiences, like what got you into org play, what the current state of the org play is, maybe what the future state in 1.0, or what CitizenCon brought to us. But let's end the podcast talking about the next couple of weeks. What does 4.0 do to our organization? How do we see the next couple of weeks, whether it's IAE, like I'll start with my feedback on IAE, but let's talk about IAE and then 4.0 before the end of the year. Yes, without the features. Let's not talk about that. That's coming in 4.0.1. But yeah, let's talk about that piece. So IAE, one of the things I loved so much about our organization in Invictus Launch Week was that we did an org night touring the facility, like the expo, and like that required no planning, no operation order. We just said, hey, let's just get in and walk the floor, walk the expo. We saw the Polaris together. I remember touring the Polaris. I remember getting into the Idris, and that's where actually the thumbnail of the show is taken, is from the briefing room of the Idris. That was a very fun night. I see us doing the exact same thing for this Invictus launch, or for this IAE, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. I see us doing that in New Babbage. But that's also right when they're going to be throwing in 4.0 into the PTU. All right, we suspect it's around that time, whether it's immediately after, whatever it is. But we have a lot happening in the game between now and January 1st. So Marauder, we're going to start with you. We'll go Marauder, we'll do Mustang, and then Groza. We'll end it with Groza. But what are our thoughts on IAE 4.0 and what it means to org play, specifically to Soul Provision, or maybe not? What are your thoughts, Marauder?
Yeah, I think my head exactly what you said, right, is kind of replicating that role playing, right, that we did at Invictus Launch Week, right? I absolutely loved not going into the exhibit hall until I did it with the org, right? I think it was just so much fun. I think that we had some shenanigans going on, right? We tried to get together for a group photo at the entrance, and then some people were supposed to be walking regularly, and no, they were running, and it was, hey, get back here, and it was like, it was herding cats.
So bad.
But I'm really looking forward to that piece of it. I think 4.0, right? I think that in my head, I've always had that. I think that we have it's a whole new level of Orgnite ideas that we can come up with, right? I mean, I'm thinking that, if the Polaris is out, you start talking, hey, let's crew up a Polaris as an escort for a C2 or a Hull C or something to go into Pyro and do some high value mission where we've got to bring cargo back into Stanton, right? So I think that there's so many different levels that we can plan for, Orgnite ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Mustang, what are your thoughts?
I'm super excited and at the same time doing my best to not buy any new ships
Stupid.
right away.
Stupid.
Right.
Way to set yourself up for failure, man.
It's like, well, I put some, I have melted some things, so I've got some stuff in the bank. But I think, no, some of it's the exciting what's going to come out, Groza and I sort of talk a lot about Gavin Rothery's work and what he does, and it seems like every time he drops a ship, I just go to the shopping store and add that to my cart right away.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful work from a science fiction perspective, and it's kind of fun. I think when we've been helping Groza with CCU chains and kind of walking through stuff, and I know there's been a couple of notes I've sent to him about, I have the same type of ship, I've got a Corsair and an MSR and something else, and they're all set for the same kind of mission. I need to branch out a little bit, and so I'm just excited to see, knowing how it's changed, where it's going to go, and what we're going to do with it when it gets there. Some of my missions solo play have been, how much commodities could I trade? Even though it doesn't matter, it's just, can I buy low and sell high, and how many points can I make a loop around Stanton doing that? And the fact that we can do that now in a much larger scale with different loops is a whole lot more fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the two of you mentioned ships and not spending money. That doesn't happen, man. I don't know. Let's just be really real with ourselves. But yeah, that Polaris is stamped for 324. That came out in the last roadmap update. It's coming out for IAE. That is happening. But it's like a 6-man crew minimum to run it, but a 14-man crew potential. That's an Orgnite, guys. That is our average Orgnite's 15 to 20. So 15, we could stuff. I mean, we could actively employ or deploy our entire org into a Polaris, and then just have a great time during IAE. But transitioning into 4.0, this is what's tough for me. And I'm weirdly sentimental, so bear with me here. But I think it would be amazing for the first time of our 150 member organization, for the first time to just stuff an 890 jump or a Polaris. Let's figure it out. I don't know, but stuff as many people as we can and actually go through the jump for the first time from Stanton into Pyro, just to say we did it as an organization. I think that would be so cool. But then you got the PTU. Everybody's going to be doing it in the PTU. It's going to come out a Thursday night or a Wednesday night or Friday night, and they're going to do it on their own. So I'm damn it. How do you force it? Hey guys, don't do it. Don't jump to Pyro yet. Wait for the org to do it. But I think that would be so incredible. So much fun for us to do as an organization.
Until we break it, because we're the largest group to attempt it.
Of course. Yeah. You know that's going to happen. We're going to queue up for the jump point, and then all hell's going to break loose. Inevitably. Groza, close this out, man. How do you see IAE 4.0, really the end of 2024? How do you see it changing and impacting org play for us?
Well, I'm either not going to spend another penny or going to buy an Idris War Bond. So I literally don't know which one of those it's going to be. Marauder and Disowned have been trying. I mean, literally, I asked them for help. I made a group chat called Fleet Therapy. And when we all got on a call together, Disowned was like, just get the War Bond, dude. Just get the War Bond. I'm like, bro, We're supposed to be like finding solutions here, and he's just like, just get the warp on. It was just like he didn't even try to pretend. And Marauder at least tried to be sly about it. Marauder tried to like start off some sentence with something that would get, try to string me along, but then I saw where it was going, and he thought he was real clever. But anyways, that's not the answer. That's not the question, is it? I think that I just think that it's going to be so interesting because of the wipe as well. So because part of me is just like, guys, I just want to go get when I was privileged enough to be able, for whatever reason, to get into the tech preview about a year ago.
Yeah.
After SitCon, and I did a box mission with Quap, or RQ Wops, who's in our org.
Yeah.
In Pyro, and it was just it's hard to explain. It was, I almost died like 4 times just trying to do the box mission, because everybody is trying to kill you, and it just makes things a lot more crazy. And so I don't even know that we necessarily need to try to like make the huge score. I don't know that we necessarily need to like, oh, we need to go do this so that we can all make a mill, right?
Yeah.
Because first of all, spoiler alert, it ain't that fun to be uber rich in Star Citizen.
Right.
It's actually, it's kind of better to not be, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just want to successfully complete something. I just want to be going back to Stanton, and that feeling of relief of like, we made it. That'll be really cool. Like I think people are forgetting like how, it's like, you guys think that it's bad in Stanton when people decide to just kill everyone around Seraphim. It's like, it's gonna be like that everywhere in Pyro. So like,
yeah,
it's just the stakes are just gonna be a lot higher. I think that it's gonna be so much different than what we're used to right now, I think.
Yeah.
And so I think that's gonna be the fun part. And just the idea of like, okay, I'll open the hangar bay of the Polaris, and I need a couple people to leave in their little fighters, right? Like deploy a couple fighters out of the Polaris. Like that's going to be a really cool moment. Yeah, just trying to survive is going to be really cool in Pyro, I think.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about Jump Town and having like advanced or an Advon party, or having eyes and ears, long range surveillance. It's different when you're like in space, and so you're gonna have to have that reconnaissance and surveillance going into Pyro, making sure the scene is safe for an entire Marauder group of supply to come through. So I can see Groza, I can see you and Marauder working very closely together on Organites. Like, how are we gonna get a combat ready group to perform security, right? To have eyes and ears at the objective. Like I see a lot of potential going into Pyro.
It's gonna be like, okay guys, we need to go pick up the stuff from Golden Riviera on Bloom. I think that's where Golden Riviera is. And it's gonna be like you can't dawdle when you're there. Like when people land, like you need to hustle. And there doesn't really feel like there's that element of like let's get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's that much of an element to the gameplay right now, and I think that alone is going to change the experience for a lot of people.
And that's like less than 2 months away, guys. Like,
awesome.
It's so exciting. I could care less about the game features, like not even to go into that debate. I could care less about the engineering and everything else. That's great when it happens, but just give me the extra system. Give me Pyro, and
So beautiful.
And let orgs do our thing. Like, we're gonna have a lot of fun regardless of the game features. But can't wait. Can't wait. Well, let's wrap it up on that note. Guys, it's been a blessing having y'all on the show. It's a long time coming, 82 episodes in to get you on. Too long to get you on, but I'm glad y'all have been on. I appreciate everything you do for Soul Provision and the organization, and what you do for our 150 members. I can't say that sincerely enough. Thank you for who you are, and thank you for what you bring to the table. So let's go straight down the list. Groza, if people want more of Groza, how can they find you on socials? How can they find your content creation? Go ahead and plug yourself.
Well, when you had Galactica on, she said that you're supposed to maintain consistency throughout all of your social media handles. So I listened, and it's at Citizen Groza on basically everything. I'm on TikTok. I haven't posted there in a hot second. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm also on X. I tend to. I'm mostly on X, to be honest. That's where I found this little community of screenshotters, and it's just so goofy, so crazy. It's like there's people from all around the world, and we all just hype each other's screenshots up, and it's a lovely little space, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rosa. I appreciate you. Marauder, how do people find more of what you do?
Oh, well, they're not going to find very much. I have very little presence on the socials. I just do. So on X, I am at Marauder_SC. I need to start posting more out there, but for the moment, I do not do very much. So, but that is where you can find me. So, hit me up, follow me, send me a message, whatever. Love to have conversations.
Yeah, love it. Invaluable member of the org. Thank you so much. Mustang, Mr. Professional, Advertising, MR, Marketing, PR, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
All the above.
Yeah, and thank you, Sulyce, for everything that you've done putting this together. The podcast is great, but the org and the community and the positive content and the inclusivity that you bring has been really positive, I think, for the environment and the community at large. So thank you for that. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm out there at Mustang6AD.com and on X at Mustang6AD. Love making content for creators and folks and screenshots, and I'm doing a couple of videos. This year this will be the first anniversary of the Provisions comic strip coming up. With Invictus launch week. So I'm excited. I've got a couple things in the bag about that, and excited I got a couple of different storylines that I'm ready to launch, and they're all a lot of fun. Groza, I can see you smiling about it.
I'm your biggest fan for Provisions. I just want them all released. I want to purchase a physical copy of them. They're so funny.
I'm glad you said that, because we've kind of, as a group, we've mentioned about a CitizenCon sort of table and a booth, a Soul Provision booth. And if we can get some of the merch and stuff out there, that's definitely where, if we can print this legally, I think that would be an awesome spot to put it there. And then I will take my Zeus bomber jacket and go try to get it signed by all the ship designers.
Hell yes.
That's what I want to do.
Hell yes. So I was going to say, Mustang, like the next thing, like we need t-shirts, we need bumper stickers, I need a tattoo.
We got them.
I need a phallic tattoo that comes across my, neck. The worm tattoo.
Yeah. It would be Groza.
Yeah. Groza's name on my face.
Groza has a centerfold.
So I have every reason to believe next CitizenCon will be in Austin, Texas, which is where yours truly is. So if that happens, we're having a booth. Mustang, all four of us are going to be here. Like, I guarantee you, we're all going to be there. We're going to have a booth. We're going to have it all set up. So I'm leaning on you, Mustang, to start creating some assets, buddy.
Let's go. Let's start getting them printed. I'm working on getting a store up and running because I have some artwork that I have to sell. I have to move some stuff so I can make some more.
Can't wait. All right. Yep. If you want to become part of the conversation, you can do so at all of our socials /BTV_cast. Our replay is over on YouTube at /BTV_cast. Join our in-game organization, Soul Provision, at www.robertspaceindustries.com /orgs/provision, or just join an org. I promise you, it's going to change the way you see and play Star Citizen. I hope this finds you well. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.